Welcome back. Today we have an extra special treat for everybody. My guest today is an integrative mycologist from New Hampshire. She has spent the last 5 years experiencing and learning about wild and medicinal mushrooms. She is a brand ambassador, a brand leader for Elevate, which is a functional mushroom company. She has her own company called Timco, where you can learn more about functional mushrooms and spirit journeys. She's so smart. She's so articulate. She is my friend. My guest today, Bella Boletus. What's up, Bella?
That was such a nice intro. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me here. We just had the best conversation to teach some folks at OG Cannabis about our functional mushroom line so that they can teach as many other people about it. And I'm just elated to be here.
Well, we are elated to have you, and quick plug, definitely get into OG Cannabis. Do give your code Dr. BeeWell 10% off. We're going to be selling the Elevate mushrooms there. That's going to be launching next week. So you'll be launched by the time this podcast comes out. So get over there and get your Elevate mushrooms from OG Cannabis.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
And one thing's funny, Bella. So I start the show usually every day. You just heard it, and it's just because something I started to do. Like say, hey, and a little extra special treat for everybody, a little giddy up, a little extra special treat. But you actually brought some treats today.
I did. I brought some sweet treats for us into the room. Actually, a really great Elevate team member baked them. But we like to show people how versatile mushrooms can be because a lot of people don't like mushrooms, but we all should be eating them on a daily basis. And so there are cupcakes and brownies here, and they are all made with our chai that contains mushroom extracts. So these medicinal mushrooms and most of their enzymes are heat stable enough to be cooked into all kinds of things. And so I have a cookbook released on Amazon that talks about cooking with mushrooms and with tinctures, and we have 2 more in the making right now. But I would love for us to start out with trying, the chai brownies. I think would be the best one.
I'm a big brownie guy.
Me too.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, let's go for it.
Cheers. Wow.
I made brownies last night and they weren't this good.
No. Moist. Fudgy.
Okay.
And there's goodness in there.
So there's so much goodness in here, especially because it's with the chai. So I could go on and on and on about the blend of functional mushrooms that are in here. We have the top 6 most powerful medicinal mushrooms in here. So reishi, chaga, turkey tail, cordyceps, lion's mane, and maitake. Actually, I don't think there's cordyceps. I think it's maitake and shiitake in here. But then because it's chai, there's also cinnamon and cardamom and star anise and black pepper and all of these other amazing herbs that are really beneficial for your body. And also beneficial for these brownies because mixing spices and chocolate really brings out the chocolate flavor in the brownies.
Yeah, whoa. Like that is I need that recipe. That's like the best brownie I've ever had.
These are really, really good.
They're amazing. I'm nervous about the cupcakes. I feel like they're not going to be as good as the brownie. But that's maybe because I'm a brownie guy.
I was going to say, are you a really big chocolate fan?
I'm a pretty big chocolate fan. What about you?
I am. I wasn't for a really long time. It wasn't until I was like early 20s, really. Early 20s that I would start being like, I want chocolate. I was always like, I want like a smoothie or I want like a fruit tart. Nope, it switched over to chocolate. I think it's my maturing palate.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the palate definitely changes. It definitely changes. There's things that I used to hate and that I love now. And, I used to not really like cilantro, and now I really like cilantro, and never thought that was one that would change.
I loved cilantro for so long, and then I got COVID for the first time, and it was like the original COVID. March 2020, we went into quarantine while I had COVID, and I lost my sense of taste for 6 months.
Oh my God, yeah.
6 months, which they say how it affects your senses indicates how bad it affected you neurologically. 6 months without tasting or smelling. And when I got it back, I couldn't eat cilantro for like a year. I couldn't eat peanut butter, bananas, sushi, ginger, or cilantro because they all tasted horrible. It was so weird, just the way that it affected.
When you get your senses taken away, it's a pretty unique thing, right? Like you don't realize how much we rely on them, like our sense of smell, for instance. But then it gets taken away, and you're like, whoa,
I think
wild.
I lost like 35 pounds in those 6
Yeah,
months because
right.
I'm just like, I don't want to eat, I don't want to drink.
Food's not interesting.
There's nothing here for me, you know.
What about these cupcakes?
I was just gonna dive into it.
Giddy up. Cheers.
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 So these are the chai mushroom cupcakes. Do you know how to eat a cupcake the right way?
No.
So you take it and you break it in half, and then you make a little cake cream sandwich.
Oh, cool. You want to know something about me?
What?
That is really awesome. That's a cool little giddy up. For me, normally how I'm going to eat a cupcake is without the frosting.
Oh, completely without the frosting.
I mean, a little bit. I mostly wipe most of it off, you know, because I love the cake part. You know, I'm a cake guy. So that's what I'm looking for right there. You know,
I hate when the frosting is this like giant tower. I like with this, you're getting a little bit of frosting with each bite.
Yeah. That's the whole thing is I wasn't intimidated by it. I wasn't even, if you hadn't done that, I would have eaten the whole thing. But
Okay.
You did that really cool thing, so I was like, yeah, let me get in there. Let me do that. Yeah, time. Now we're all juiced up, ready to go. A little bit of sugar, but also a little bit of giddy up, a little bit of mushrooms in us. We love it. We love it.
A little bit of lion's mane.
A little bit of lion's mane. Yeah, exactly. Get cognitive a little bit.
We were talking about that. Our lovely producer and I were talking about this while you were out, because we had a bunch of chai and coffee earlier during our initial conversation.
Yeah, I'm still drinking mine.
How do you feel?
I feel great. Ready to go.
I feel like really present. We feel very coherent and very clear in like the moment, very grounded. And you're just chatting about that. So it's good to know that you're feeling
It's late
good.
in the afternoon.
It is.
Later than I normally do this. So I'm still spot on, sharp. Feel good.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm an integrative mycologist. But more than that, I'm a general biologist. And biology has always been a really big passion of mine. I grew up in a family of really intelligent, especially women in the scientific field, nurses, doctors, dentists, biologists. And so study and asking questions has always been a big part of my life. I went to university initially I started on a pre-med track because I thought I wanted to be a doctor. At some point, I thought I wanted to be a pharmacist, and then I'm like, oh, I want to be a doctor instead. What?
No pharmacist. Don't become a pharmacist.
So, oh my gosh, I really almost did too. I just got a flashback to like this moment that my life changed that I didn't even know that it was changing at the time, and put me here, and now I'm feeling gratitude for that. But
That's a giddy up.
I'm a general biologist. I work with wildlife as, my day-to-day job, because it's not quite a full-time job yet to be a mycologist, but we're working on it. My goal doing things like this is to hopefully renew and resurge young mycologists, because more mycologists are retiring and dying before they're being replaced by an educated and trained person. So getting young people involved in mycology is a big passion of mine. But I think the thing that drew me to mushrooms, the literal thing that drew me to mushrooms, was a mushroom identification app that I accidentally paid for and forced myself to use because I wanted my money's worth. And so that got me interested. But they're so misunderstood and so under the radar. Like they're getting a resurgence now where people are starting to pay attention to them. But so many people are either afraid of mushrooms, they think that they're plants, or they don't want them because they're slimy. And there's so many problems with those because mushrooms are just amazing. And now I'm dedicated to them, and I have a state foraging license in New Hampshire, so people can go out foraging with me and know that they're not going to die, as we're picking things and they're eating it.
That's something you need?
So it's state by state.
Hope not. I really fucking hope not, especially New Hampshire.
So
sorry.
For you, you're fine. my license makes it so I can sell to grocery stores, farmers markets, and restaurants.
Oh, cool.
The
Okay,
average
yeah.
individual can forage and feed their friends and family as much as they want.
That is the perfect system. That's
Mm-hmm.
how it should be. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
It is really good, and it's a tough class. It's a very tough class, but it was well worth it. And there are multiple tiers with different species as they get more difficult. But that's amazing. So I take people out on foraging walks, and I get to teach them about fungal biology while we're actually out there. And sometimes we do mindfulness strolls where we'll take a microdose of psilocybin and then go out in the woods foraging for a couple
I
hours.
can't wait to do this with you.
It's so fun.
Yeah, now
It's so fun.
This is normally like a fall thing, right?
Well, there are fall mushrooms, and they're really good. But mushroom season, it officially starts in May, which is when morels start really coming out. And then they're the first, like, quality choice edible mushroom that comes out every year. And then that first week of July is when your summer mushrooms start coming out. So spring mushrooms, you're looking at morels, occasionally some chanterelles. We've been seeing some chicken of the woods recently, which is interesting. And then you're going to get the summer mushrooms, so matsutakis and beefsteak mushrooms and lion's mane and all kinds of other stuff come out between July and like September. And then there's sort of a dip in between beginning and end of September. And then the fall mushrooms come out. So you're looking at chicken of the woods, hen of the woods, things like that. Matsutakis in the later summer, like August, September is matsutake season. And those are incredible mushrooms. Matsutakis are so cool. They grow really prolifically around here in northern New England. And then in Japan, matsutakis are sold for hundreds of dollars per mushroom. And they're put in these like intricately carved boxes and given as gifts for like weddings or like graduations or things like that.
Do they have to be from Japan?
So the Japanese ones are much more expensive than the American ones. I think just because it's a Japanese name and it's the original location. But from a biochemical standpoint, they're no different than the ones that grow here. Because actually the rainforests, not rainforests, but forests that they grow in Japan are very similar to our temperate forests.
Cool.
Here.
So Japan must not allow like an import of these type of mushrooms then?
I don't know if there's like a rule against it, but I don't think any Japanese person is going to be buying an American matsutake if they're going to be buying a matsutake.
Right.
But they're here. They taste like a combination of red hot candies in a gym bag. But usually you only consume like a very small amount.
Oh, they're bad. They don't taste good.
It's an acquired taste.
Wow. Okay.
Usually in Japan, these very fancy mushrooms they'll shave a very, very thin layer off of the mushroom and like float it on like a clear soup or like a ramen or something. So one mushroom can feed like 15, 20 people because you don't eat a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that the first time I ate it. I knew that they like smelled bad, but I thought it would kind of cook itself out. And I tried to make a grilled cheese with like big coins of the matsutake in the sandwich. It was not good. It was not. It's my least favorite mushroom.
What's your favorite mushroom to eat?
Oh gosh, lion's mane, or hen of the woods, or beefsteak. Beefsteak mushroom is one of the only mushrooms that I would ever recommend that people eat raw, and that includes baby Bella mushrooms. I told you I'd be talking more about this, but beefsteak mushroom, I have a picture of it somewhere. It's bright red, and it has this weird flesh on it that kind of feels like skin. And then when you cut into it, it looks like a marbled steak. And because it's got this like red and white reticulations in it. And then you bite it, and it's crunchy, and it tastes like citrus, which is really weird. It tastes like lemon and dirt, essentially. And it's just so interesting. It can be like kind of zesty sometimes. It's so cool.
There's so many different mushrooms that taste different, I guess, like I've had quite a decent experience with them, in terms of I've probably cooked with like 5 or 6 different mushrooms, and I put of course lion's mane, and of course the white butt mushrooms, baby bellas. Those ones are like the most common. Tasty too. Super tasty, yeah, absolutely. Shiitakes, I use, there was some type of, I think maybe it was hen of the woods. That's the one that grows on the tree.
It's at the bottom of the tree, and it can grow just out of the ground. Sometimes you'll just find it in like the middle of a field, but it means that there's a dead tree underground, or there's a
Cool.
big log underground that it's growing out.
Yeah, I've seen like dead logs. Like it comes out and it like spreads out like this. Like yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely cooked that too then.
Yeah, they're amazing, and they come out like a storm of locusts every year. There'll be none, and it's selling for like $28 a pound, and then by the next day, foragers have brought in like 300 pounds of it, and it's selling for like $4 a pound because they just all come out at once.
Oh, really?
But it's so good.
What now? Like, so are you using that? Are you selling to farmers markets and doing that and selling to people?
Not at this time. What I use it for is when I take people out on foraging trips, they pay for attendance.
They pay for attendance.
And then I allow them to take mushrooms home at
Right,
the end
right,
if we find something edible.
How often does that happen? How often do you find something edible when you take people on these trips?
Almost every time.
Yeah, and everyone gets to go home with some?
If there's enough. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes it's like you find one chanterelle. Or sometimes I find things that are edible, but you don't want to go through the work to cook them. Like Old Man of the Woods. It's technically edible. It's a zombie apocalypse mushroom. If there's no food around, you can eat it. It's slimy and weird, and it's a lot of work to cook. So you don't... We always find something. But it depends.
Why are the white button mushrooms and the baby bellas so popular in the grocery stores?
Because they're so easy to grow.
Mm.
They'll grow in anything. But like literally anything. And so the reason those few species, or those few names, baby bella, cremini, portobello, white mushroom, button mushroom, the reason they are so popular is because they're actually all the same species. They're all the same mushroom. That mushroom is incredibly easy to grow, and depending on the amount of light you give it, the amount of oxygen, the temperature, and how long you grow it for, it's either a white button mushroom, which is an oxygen and light-deprived young Agaricus bisporus, or it's a big, dark, open portobello mushroom, which is a mature Agaricus bisporus that was given the natural amount of light and heat and oxygen and all that, so it grows like kind of like it would in the wild.
So are baby bella mushrooms better for you than white button mushrooms? They taste better to me. I always cook with them. To be honest, I always used to cook. I grew up with like white button mushrooms. It's just what we had. And then once I started like going to the grocery store and cooking with my own mushrooms, before I started like getting more into mushrooms and trying to find like people who were foraging them or buying them from farmers markets, I started using bella mushrooms just because I think the taste is better.
Yeah, they probably are.
Something getting oxygen and light.
Getting oxygen, that coloration that's on it, like we talked about with chaga and other mushrooms, the coloration can sometimes clue you in on what's going to be in it as well. So you obviously want the more vibrant fruit or vegetable than the one that's, just like boring and dull. So I would assume that there's an increased amount of nutrients, but I don't know, and I don't know if it's significant.
Right.
But
what about the different sizes? The different sizes of like bella mushrooms that they have.
Different life stages. Different mushrooms. Yeah, different genetics.
Different genetics, different mushrooms. I've definitely seen way different mushrooms. It's crazy the different mushrooms that you can see.
Sometimes like two of them are growing like together. They like fold inside out. Oh my gosh! I worked at a commercial mushroom farm for a while, and the freaks that we would see, like these crazy, because they get confused. In like artificial environments where water and air are being thrown at them in ways that they're not used to, the mushroom itself will get confused on which way is up and down, which usually they know and they can respond to, and that's actually something that points to their sentience and conscious awareness. But sometimes they'll grow their gills upwards, like on a fully formed cap too. They'll just like, I'm going to turn this into gills and start like opening up the other way. It's kind of crazy. But yes.
What was that experience like working at a commercial mushroom farm?
Oh my gosh, it was really fun. It was really fun. I started when I was in university. I did a month-long internship there because I just wanted to learn about it, and I was really getting into mushrooms at the time.
Can you say where or no?
Yeah, New Hampshire Mushroom Company in Tamworth, New Hampshire.
Cool, yeah. We like New Hampshire Mushroom Company.
I love them.
Yeah,
so,
same.
I did a month-long internship there, And then the owner, Eric, who's a good friend of mine, at sort of the end of it, he's like, once you graduate, do you want to come work here? And I said, I don't want to be a mushroom farmer, but I will come work here. But we know that, because my internship was writing a syllabus and planning out a mushroom class with him, using his knowledge of mushroom growing and grow room construction and all that. We created the New Hampshire Mushroom School, which is a 3-day workshop for mushroom farmers that want to build their own facility and all that. They go in and get like retrofitting lessons on how to actually go into a facility and build a mushroom farm. And so we've had really good success with that.
Is that like a sellable? You like sell that?
It is sellable. Yeah, we sell the attendance.
Yeah.
It's in person.
Oh,
actually.
okay. He teaches it. Eric teaches it.
Mm-hmm. So you spend 3 days.
And you helped him develop it.
Mm-hmm. I wrote the syllabus, did all the graphic design, sent it out to everybody, managed the communications with our first students and all that. It was.
I gotta set up an intern. I want to start doing that and just have those relationships, because you said it. It's not. I don't look at it as free labor. I look at it as, holy shit, this is a person who was interested in what I'm doing and interested in podcasting and interested in media production, and they're hungry and they want to learn, and they're also young. They're a different generation, so let's fucking learn.
Yeah, it was amazing. And so I said, I'd absolutely come work for you, but I'm not going to be shaking substrate bags every day, because anybody can do that. And so I went back and I got to plan this massive event where hundreds of people came and celebrated mushrooms. We had music and we had games and scavenger hunts and all these different vendors. And we had a cupcake stand selling tincture cupcakes and smoothie cupcakes being sold, and an art raffle, and like all these amazing things that I put together essentially single-handedly at that farm, which was so fun. And then I wrote my first cookbook with them, and I created all this different content and created new products, and it was just so fun. And I did a lot of actual farm work as well, to help my creative process. And so I learned a lot about the growth and, about the process. And that's actually how I got connected with Elevate, which was amazing. Literally my last day working for New Hampshire Mushroom Company, I just impulsively went with Eric to a meeting, and I met the person who got me into Elevate, which was awesome. Yeah, it was like
intuitive.
A checkpoint.
It's a checkpoint to the mushrooms. They, if you listen, like you said, they're sentient, and if you listen, they'll tell you, what's going on. With and I want to get into that, but not quite yet. But because I know that's going to be a good one. So with the mushroom company, and and being a commercial market, like how many mushroom, like what does that look like? Like how many mushrooms are being grown there? Like what is that? What
when
production,
I was
what type
there,
of production?
When I was there, they were growing about 1,000 pounds a week.
Wow, 1,000 pounds of mushrooms
hard.
a week.
It's hard.
All different types.
All different types. There are some that you grow year round. So lion's mane, blue oyster mushrooms, black pearl oysters, king oysters, chestnuts. Those will grow all year round. Then there are certain mushrooms that do better at different times of the year. So I believe it's elm oyster mushrooms do really well in the winter, and then enoki mushrooms do well in the summer. It might be the other way around. I don't remember right now.
Like
But so,
indoor cultivation, you're saying they do well. It's funny, that's how we used to have to brew beer back in the day. They couldn't brew beer in the summertime. So
you can't control your environment that much.
Right, yeah.
Especially because that farm is all geothermal. Like,
oh, cool.
All geothermal
Beautiful.
heating, and everything is recycled. The air is recycled, being like pushed from one area to another. Like the heat is recycled to heat the floors. Like everything. I've
tried to get Eric on. We talk about it. We've talked about it before, just back and forth, like on Instagram, and we haven't committed to it yet, but just
I'll work on it.
Yeah, work on that. Yeah.
I was his translator, because during that internship, we spent about a month and a half chatting, and we would sit and talk for hours and hours and hours, and I would record it, and then I would go home and I would translate it. I would, pick apart the important bits and push aside all of our ADHD ramblings. And at the end, I came and I presented the syllabus to him, and he was like, "Oh my God, how'd you do this? How do you know all this? That's amazing." And I actually said, "Wow, you really are a dumbass. You said all of this. This is all your words. Because he said that to me so many times. Like, I'm a dumbass. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're like one of the smartest guys I've met. You're crazy, but you're really smart. And no, I said straight to his face, I'm like, man, this is all you. These are all your words. He's like, how'd you do that? I said, what do you think we've been doing for the last month and a half as I've been writing this?
Takes all types.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited to see the syllabus.
So yeah, we joked of me as his translator. But yeah, that was a fun experience working with them and getting to learn about the cultivation process, but do all the creative process as well. And it taught me I don't want to be a mushroom cultivator. That's not, you know.
Not for you.
No, and I had experience working in labs as well. I worked in a genomics lab for 2 years, and I realized I don't want to work in a lab either. I could go get my PhD in mycology and work in like an agricultural lab for the rest of my life if I wanted to. No thanks. So I do this instead.
It's amazing that that you like good for you too. For it goes to go. I mean, you kind of been talking about it. You had like a strong upbringing led by women, and that you believe in yourself and you believe and you keep searching for what's right for you and your path. And like this, usually I'm still on that path. I'm quite a bit older than you, so like not a ton older than you, but definitely older than you. And so like. Not that matters, but I'm still on that. I'm just figuring that out now, and like over the last 5 years, and it seems like you're already on that path, which is amazing.
Yeah, I was surrounded by opportunities to become resilient and really centered in myself, which was great. Either from family or friends or just life experiences. It's like I have to trust myself.
And the only way is through, right?
Yeah, we were talking about that with the cold earlier. You can't hide from it. It's like you're just gonna stay stuck if you don't push yourself through whatever you're facing. And I face that with mushrooms even sometimes because I get frustrated if I'm learning something and I don't understand it right away. And so I can get frustrated if I'm not understanding like a chemical concept. When we dive into, all the actual biochemistry of it all, that's not my strong suit. It's
right.
not. Mm-hmm. But I have to understand it. And so I can experience that with mushrooms where it's like you have to get through it and it'll present challenges for you. And sometimes it's like if a giant challenge falls in your lap, if something completely changes your trajectory, it's probably because you've been getting little nudges for so long and you haven't taken it that you're now being shoved off the cliff. Like I had that happen and mushrooms were behind it. And it's going to sound so funny. I was living at this place that I loved and I wanted to be in the location, but it was a bad living environment. And I was like, I can just wait it out. The other person will leave. I'll wait it out. I'll have my beautiful lake. Like I'll have my yard. It'll be great. It wasn't going to work out. I was in denial and I was being stubborn. I was trying to control the outcome of it all. And then suddenly my portion of the living environment became encased in black mold, like overnight. It wasn't overnight. It was like a few days. But there was one giant humidity event and then everything was covered in mold. And I had no choice but to leave.
Yeah, the mushrooms told you.
Get
the fuck out.
The fucking mushrooms. And when I found it all, I freaked out for like 2 minutes. I like tore my apartment apart to see where all the mold was. And I realized how bad it was. And I walked outside and I sat in the grass and I'm like, I have to find the pros and cons of this. I have to center myself because this is a test. And if I don't handle this well in whatever way, if I panic, if I freak out, I'm going to be on the wrong path. Like this is an opportunity because you're not given challenges that you can't overcome. Whatever is controlling this does not give us things that we can't do. And sometimes the thing that we have to do is say, I can't do that, but that might be the challenge. But the point of this is that, you get pushed into things. And I really think that mushrooms were pushing me into a very specific life path and a very specific motion where things just fall into place. And now I get to spend my life traveling around the country teaching people about mushrooms and writing books about it and just having the time of my life and dedicating to mushrooms as a healing power,
Yeah, they're so profound. I said I have always had like a a good relationship with them because I've always loved them in my food and always thought that they were so cool outside. But then as I got older and I needed more healing, and I started to use psychedelic mushrooms and psilocybin, and like that journey and what I've learned from that, what I've learned about myself, like one thing that a lot of people talk about with psilocybin is just how it helps you with your mind and your mental health, and like so a big part of mental health is like how you're able to hold your body in space and be comfortable, be able to just sit here comfortably with you, and we have so many tension, and we hold our bodies with such tension and inflammation, and so. For me, the mushrooms are amazing because they teach me how to have an appreciation for my body and space.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love to take them and then do movement practices, and it's just like we touched on it earlier, but it's creating new neural pathways to allow me to, this is how my body is physically showing up right now in the current neural pathways, and I move because my current neural pathways, how those exist. When I take mushrooms and I introduce new thought pattern and then movement pattern after that. It's lasting, and it changes, and it's like wow, and I can't necessarily always I can't access the same level without the mushrooms, unless I do like yoga for like hours and hours and hours, and have different practices like that. But it's the mushrooms they tell me how to hold my body in space, and they just give me such perception. Hey man, and it is a mental thing obviously, but it's so funny that it affects the physical body so much.
Do you ever have a moment, and I think you have because of the way you were describing that, where you're in a life scenario that during a spirit journey, you learned the tool to get yourself out of that situation, and you're about to react or respond in some way, and you actually feel it in your body when your brain goes, wait, I can go this way instead of we built that maybe 8 months ago or 6 months ago or whatever. People think that they're going to be fixed right after their trip. I'm like, oh no. No, it could be a year until you're in that scenario. Somebody is upsetting you or whatever, and you get that little voice in the back of your head that says you don't have to react. You don't have to hold this in your body. I describe it to my clients as mushrooms don't change how your life is going to progress unless that's your intention. What it does is it allows you to take the waves of life, and instead of being smacked in the face with your mouth open by a wave of life, you see it coming, and you have the choice to duck down under it and let it wash over you. It gives you that split second of presence and intention to say, what do I want to do right now?
Yeah, that's like a great way to put it. And for me too, like you said, I think that's great because you can learn and then it can happen into the future. For me, like what I always look into the past too. So while I am going through a mushroom journey, I look back and say, I'll have something that had been bothering me for weeks, months on end. And then I'll say to them like, holy shit, that person didn't even mean that.
Yeah.
They didn't mean that. They were going, this whole
new
thing.
Perspective.
It's always new perspective. Exactly. You get that new perspective, and then your body changes, and you get this calm, comforting feeling. And
it's
like,
forgiveness.
Forgiveness, yeah. It's really, and that's things we're really hard on ourselves. But we have tools, but they get so lost and they get so muddy. Like you said, I know people. Let me ask you this: because I am on my mushroom journey. I think that psychedelics are great. I use them as part of my healing journey. I have people who tell me that like they don't, I don't think it's a panacea. It's not not for everybody. Although I think most people can benefit from them. But I've had people tell me that like, oh yeah, I used to do that, but now I'm at the point where I don't need it anymore at all. And I always get curious about that because like I feel now that I can benefit. It's always benefiting me, and then maybe I can get to a point where I don't need it at all. But I mean it's so helpful and beneficial that I just don't know. So I'm curious about your opinion.
I know some people that will have one mystical experience, and that's enough for them for the rest of their life. Those people are generally happy people to begin with, and then they can just like hold on to that for the rest of their lives and be really, really happy. And then I know other people that have been microdosing for 25 years straight, and that is what keeps them okay, is that constant presence of it. And so there's no right way to answer this, because sometimes people will say, oh, I don't do that anymore, I don't need that anymore, because they may have a reaction to it, physical or emotional, and sometimes while they're intentionally trying to heal themselves. So sometimes the mushrooms will actually reject you. if you consume them and say, like, no, you have to do this yourself. I'm not helping you through this. And then some people just have the toolboxes. Some people are neurotypical and happy every day of their lives. Some people. And they don't need to keep revisiting it. I believe that a mushroom journey or a healing journey doesn't end until you end. Like, there will probably be a point in those people's lives that they feel like they need or they want the support of psilocybin at some point. But at this point in their life, they either feel stable enough that they don't need it and they feel happy enough that they don't need it, or they're lying to themselves. And there might be something that they really do need to work through and they don't want to. But who knows? There's all...
For me, I'm pretty happy and stable, I think, relatively, especially compared to, definitely mushrooms helped with that. They helped increase my happiness and my stability, and I definitely am in a good place where I don't need to use them for those things, but it allows me to become a better version of myself. And
every day.
Exactly, every day. And when I have, and not even when I'm not, there'll be time periods where I'm not a guy who microdoses all the time. This is I maybe do a macro dose once every other month, and then every, maybe a month or a week or two every 2 months I'm also microdosing. And so like it's so helpful, and I become a better person, better version of myself, a better dad, a better husband, better everything, better friend, better family member. So I hear it, and I hear I think what you're saying is spot on. Is you can always return to it. And then I had another person who came on the show once who is a psychedelic therapist. That's what she's creating this job for herself, and she's doing this, and it's beautiful. And she's trained as a family and marriage therapist, but she's doing it in her own practice and creating this similar to you. And she said to me, she was like, Steve, it's your relationship with it. It's your personal relationship with it, and that's what matters, and that's what matters for everybody. And I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you've probably noticed that quite a few times when you say, oh, how much should someone take? When will they feel it? What does this feel like? What should you take for this? And I'm like, there is no standardization to this. Absolutely no standardization. I know a 5-foot-tall woman who takes 600 milligrams of psilocybin a day. And then I know massive, massive guys that feel like they're tripping on 200 milligrams. So it's so individualized and so different, and that's not even diving into the functionals when it comes to your individual metabolism and your individual health profile, and everything's so individualized, and that's why
that's the problem with modern medicine, right? That's the problem with modern medicine and randomized control trials, right? You to get something to work for everybody. You brought up a great example earlier of where mushrooms can help and potentially help with people. So like an ACE inhibitor, like lisinopril, okay? That is going to, it doesn't work in like 40% of the population who takes it. It doesn't even help with their blood pressure. And they're taking it and they're potentially getting side effects from it, dry cough, just other stuff going on. Drugs are going to cause things. They have side effects. And so like if we can replace that with a functional mushroom and have that where it's not negatively affecting us and working all the time, and it's like it might have to take more of this dose, but it's something you can monitor your blood pressure. So if you can figure out what dose works for you,
exactly,
then you're going to be it's personalized medicine, and that's like really what we need to go towards is personalized, decentralized medicine.
And that's what I do with participants is I help them decentralize that medicine. And I completely agree with you. I do love randomized clinical trials, double-blind trials for talking to people that look at that as their Bible. When I'm speaking with a physician who doesn't want to hear anything about my hippy-dippy mumbo-jumbo, but I'm trying to convince him to safely monitor this patient that wants to start a bunch of mushroom tinctures but needs monitoring, that's when I'm like, this clinical trial, like this peer-reviewed double-blind trial shows that this is going to help. That's when all of that is really good. But then when it comes to microdosing in particular, it's impossible to get quality data by giving people a microdose, having them sit in a lab for 8 hours and asking them a bunch of questions about how they feel. Or even giving them a month's worth of supplies to do on their own daily basis, but they don't have integration support. and they haven't had a conversation with an integrative mycologist beforehand. And we don't know whether 200 milligrams is going to make them feel anything or whether they can't drive a car when they have 200 milligrams, you know? Like, you have to find that subperceptible level where, yeah, it's there, but you're not supposed to feel it. Like, you're supposed to notice it, but you're not supposed to feel it. And that's a conversation that I have to have with people a lot. They're like, I take it, and then nothing happens. And I'm like, are you sitting there waiting for yourself to start tripping and expecting something to start happening? Or are you that you're taking it and then you're journaling your intention, or you're going on a walk, or you're moving your body? Like, how are you doing it? Because the integration, when it comes to psychedelic therapy and psychedelic healing specifically, integration is the most important aspect. With functional mushrooms, haricinones are going to do what haricinones do, whether or not you know it. Like, that can be a placebo trial. When it comes to microdosing and macrodosing, that intentional awareness of what's going on, why you're doing it, and what you're actually keeping track of is the most important part. You can microdose every day for the rest of your life, but if you have no intention, if you haven't set a specific, measurable, attainable, and reasonable goal that's time-bound, that you can sit with and go over with somebody and look at your progress and look at your challenges, if you don't have that intentional goal setting, you're probably going to make very little progress. Because psilocybin, we talk a lot about it creating new nerves and new nerve pathways and the neuroplasticity of it all. These nerves don't just grow. They don't just show up and say and tell you what to do. They don't just show up and say, don't react when your mom calls you fat or something. You have to practice it. You have to have that conflict, have that interaction, and physically practice it. Like, do it.
That's what the medicine does, though, right? Like, because if you're, every time when your mom calls you fat, you have this visceral reaction where you react, and you have a nervous system reaction to it because you're hurt, you're upset, But that time when you're microdosing and you're in a state with psilocybin, and you realize, like, oh shit, this person was called fat. They just hate themselves. They need love. They just need, that's it. And I know they're taking it out on me, and that kind of hurts, and that kind of does suck. But it doesn't hurt that bad because I know it's not really about me.
And
then you
just
get to hug
love
them
that
and love
person.
them.
That's it.
Yeah, right.
Instead of being mad or hating yourself or hating them or feeling sad, you just get to think, I love you. To yourself, to them, to the moment, to the mushroom for making you feel better in that moment. And it sounds silly. It's especially going to sound silly to neurodivergent folks when I say just do it. Because it's not so easy to just do it. And it's not linear. You may do it one time and then react the other time the wrong way. But what it is your brain is a muscle. And all of these nerve pathways are muscles. And it's going to go down what is easiest to go down, most practiced, most commonly visited. And I don't know if your other guest, who is a psychedelic therapist, explained the actual chemical process of psilocybin and how it changes how your brain works. But I'll do it very quickly.
Do it. Yeah, please do it.
So in this brain muscle, in this brain factory, this highway, all of your thoughts and your feelings have their normal commutes, and they go down it, and they know where to go and all that. When you consume psilocybin, even at a low dose, but especially at a high dose, all of those roads, most of those roads get shut down. And those thoughts and those feelings and those sensations are forced to go down a different path. What it does is it takes something called the default mode network that I just described. It's that portion of your brain that is most active most of the time. And it decreases the amount of oxygen, and it decreases the amount of blood to those areas. It doesn't decrease the amount of oxygen and blood that go to your brain, just to those specific areas. And then your brain is able to process not only the same stimuli that it usually would, but more stimuli, because when you're on psilocybin, you are more aware of everything. It is forced to process it through parts of your brain that normally don't process that information. So maybe your visual center is processing texture or your like audio that you're hearing. It's a different portion of your brain that is processing it. And I brought up a case in the last conversation about a man who had hydrocephalus, and it didn't, because he got it as an adult, there was no signs of it until he started to have like blurry vision and headaches. And they found out that he only had 10% of his brain tissue left. And 90% of his
Fluid.
cranial cavity was fluid.
Wow.
He was living a normal life. He would drive to work. He had a slightly lower than average IQ. It was like 87. But he was a normal guy. And they have no clue when it started or like how long it had been doing that. But that's an image of you can lose 90% of your brain and still go about your life in a meaningful way.
Survival, like we're so good at surviving and just getting through, and it might not be optimal and you might not feel great all the time, but you can do it and you can get through it.
And then more than that, and mushrooms access this too, is your brain and your body have no point where they are disconnected. There is no physical point where it becomes brain or it becomes body, because nerves go through your entire body. Like every little bit of you is covered in nerves. And so when you're able to understand that the brain itself is like a kid driving a car that he's not supposed to, and he doesn't realize that like the car itself can help him. That's like the brain and the body, where they're totally disconnected from each other because of today's society, but in the grand scheme of things, they're all the same thing. And so once you realize that other parts of your brain process other pieces or the same pieces of information, you can then realize that your body is also processing these things. And a lot of things that we go through and that we forget, or feelings that we have, don't just go away, because memories last a really long time. But we run out of space eventually in here, and the memories have to go somewhere else, and so they're stored in other nerves.
That's why we have the physical trauma stored in our body. That's like the scientific explanation for it.
The scientific explanation is
really
that
cool.
Stress has to go somewhere. That memory, that
What a
experience
good way to put it.
has to go somewhere.
Right.
And
because they're always
does.
connected. Exactly right. Because people can't always, they always just think of like their brain, and it's like your brain being injured from the, from all the stress and the trauma. But then they also say like, yeah, but it lives in my body. And I try to say that to them. Exactly. I try to say to them all the time, like, and it's, you get into a car, it's like physical, it's mental trauma, but it's physical trauma too. Someone gets into a car accident and they jerk this way, They might hold their body like that, and they'll hold their body like that because that's where, that's where they're holding that trauma and storing it that way. And because their brain, so yeah, and the mushrooms can help us work through
Reconnect
that.
It
can reconnect that.
Because I don't like, not that I'm like, screw you, brain, you're not damaged, but I almost view the brain as the damager more than the damaged, because the ego and the brain, they cause so much unnecessary stress in the body. And through I understand it's a survival mechanism when you compartmentalize things, but then to ignore it and not revisit it and process it in a healthy way, whether it be through therapy or psychedelics or whatever, that's when the brain being like, no, it's too scary, put it away. No, it's too scary, put it away. That gives you cancer if you do it for long enough. If you ignore that for long enough, you are going to get cancer or fibromyalgia or arthritis or Alzheimer's or something like chronic or a heart attack. Chronic stress, unresolved stress in the body, because your brain is on an ego trip, literally, is what kills us. We're not dying from typhoid fever anymore. We're dying because we're stressed out.
Let me introduce you to Elevate, a premium functional mushroom company focused on supporting your highest potential. They offer a range of powerful supplements crafted from the finest medicinal fungi designed to naturally enhance your well-being. Elevate carries everything from mushroom tinctures, capsules, and teas to their delicious mushroom-infused coffees. All of their products are made with USA-grown mushrooms and contain only wild medicinal mushrooms, no psychoactive compounds. I personally use their focus tincture every day and love their chai tea blend. It's my go-to for a calming yet energizing boost. Elevate's products support mental clarity, immunity, and overall vitality. They ship nationwide, so whether you're new to functional mushrooms or already a fan, Elevate has something for you. Check them out at shopelevatemushrooms.com, where you will find a detailed description of each product and experience the difference for yourself.
We're dying because we're stressed out all the time. And there are things in our food and things in our technology and things in the air and in the water that further, and our medicine, that, or all the medicines in our food and water, that further that the illusion of a non-existent disconnection. Because somehow, as human beings, we view these two things as separate when they're all the exact same thing. They're all made of the same thing. They're all in the same body. We are not a brain operating a body. We are a being operating a body. And, like, the brain is just the control center. But it's like if a control center got hacked.
The communication bit is what makes it hard, is people don't understand, and we're not taught how to communicate between the brain and the body. And this is why I love yoga and meditation and breath work, is because the way that we do connect is through the breath, is through the focus and the intention and visualization. And so, like, with yoga, it lays it out there for you. Lets you know that these are the two things that you need. You have the brain and the body, and it just eventually, if you do it enough yoga, it just becomes intuitive and you get this.
Yeah. And I'm neurodivergent, like I had mentioned before, and I struggle with a lot of executive dysfunction. And it doesn't look like that. I'm a high-achieving individual, but I'm a high-functioning, like high-masking, very dysfunctional human being when it comes to the chemical aspect. And so I think one of the biggest things that habit building and communication for psychedelics has done for me is this will only make sense to the other ASD folks in the audience. I now know when I'm thirsty, and I know when I'm hungry, and I know when I have to go outside, and I know when I have to take a step away, as opposed to I used to have anxiety spirals, like full-blown panic attacks, have no clue what was wrong. 20 minutes later, after panicking for 20 minutes, I would drink water and realize I was thirsty.
Yeah, and maybe before that, you fucking slammed 800 milligrams of Advil.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, wait, I just needed to drink water because I was stressed out. Like, because I was so stressed out, because that's just the way my brain works, that I forgot to eat, I forgot to drink, I forgot to do all this stuff, or I just didn't even forget it, just didn't come into my head, And then, dude, I hear that, and I don't even know, because, like, that's a word that I don't really, like, neurodivergent. I know people say it, and it's become like a common thing lately, and it's cool because I don't know, I necessarily wouldn't have considered myself like that, but I'm about as ADHD as it comes, and I was a person who didn't think, I used to tell people, like, oh, like, I don't need to eat, like, I don't need to, like, why would I eat? And now I'm like, dude, of course you need to eat. I wake up every morning, and I have habit forms now that I have my smoothie every morning, I have my eggs every morning,
My partner, when we first got together, it was like 5 hours of sleep, 1 meal a day, craziness. And now every morning it's like, I didn't sleep 8 hours last night. Where's my breakfast? And it just makes me feel happy. But yeah.
Hey, can I jump in there quick? So my partner, my wife, she also when I asked her to marry me, I did it at Lighthouse Beach in Chatham, Massachusetts, because after we did yoga on the beach together, because she is my lighthouse. She grounds me to
that's
that.
Nice. Yeah.
And without her, I you could say someone's your rock, and rocks are cool, they're steady, but lighthouses are fucking forever unmoved. We plant them in the ground, and then they stay there for 300, 400, 500 years, and they lead people home from storms. And so this is beautiful, this beautiful structure and beautiful, service that this does, and this is what this human does for me. And like you said, I was like, I'd sleep whatever, a couple hours here and there, 1 meal a day, like giddy up, and then I got grounded through. She helped me ground, which is really cool. That people can help each other, which is really cool. And as I said, now, we're together and we're going to be together. But if we weren't, I still have learned those tools. She's taught me those tools, and I have those tools, and I am that human being. Even if I do slip back sometimes, and my sleeping pattern gets fucked up, or I don't eat as much, I can still be like, I know it's wrong, and I know I need to return to normalcy and return to ground.
Mushrooms got me there.
And exactly, yeah, right.
Functional mushrooms and psilocybin. I have chronic stress, and I didn't realize that I lived the first 18 years of my life in survival mode. Just like, I didn't even realize. I was like, I can grow under any conditions. I can, like, do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And
right.
then I got my first apartment for the first time, just alone. And I genuinely couldn't move for like 2 weeks. I just laid on my couch for like 2 weeks. I remember talking to my therapist. I'm like, is this who I am when nobody's watching me? Like, was all of my executive function, all of my ability to do anything just mirroring off of other people? And he said, Bella, you, for the first time in your life, don't have to be on. You don't have to be worried about anything. And so now you have to learn how to be a human being because you're a totally different person now. That mode, that autopilot that was carrying you for this entire life is now gone. And I had to learn through, this is when I really started exploring psychedelics because I had been doing wild and medicinals for a little while at this point. But it's when I really started getting into psychedelics and reading about it because he was like, you have to learn how to do this again. You have to learn how to function as a human being with your dysfunction because like you have to build pathways that don't work for other people. I literally had to like Pavlov train myself to be able to do it. And that was only possible because of lion's mane and psilocybin. Like it's really impossible to just teach somebody with this kind of dysfunction how to do something. Of course they know how to do it, but it's like actually building the brain pathways because
Something like rewarding yourself, through, say you would do something and reward
Yep.
yourself. Like that was beautiful because, like you said, the Pavlov, I mean, there's this, you should definitely read this book and this wonderful woman, you might already know who she is. Her name's Dr. Nicole LaPera, and she
I
has,
think so.
it's called How to Do the Work. She's
Yep.
called the Holistic Psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
She's like one of the most brilliant people, in the world. And, she talks a lot about rewarding yourself. Yeah, she's like, I hate doing the fucking dishes, right? I hate doing the dishes. And that's the thing. Like sometimes you got to do the dishes. So to she would say every time after she would do the dishes, she would allow herself to like, listen to music or to do something that to do something she enjoyed right after that.
Mm-hmm.
Pavloved herself. She gave herself
Yeah.
that reward, and now she loves to do dishes.
I ask my clients all the time, how did you celebrate yourself today? And they never know. They don't even know how to celebrate themselves. Like, listen to your favorite song. Get a little sweet treat. I don't know. Smoke a bowl. Like, do whatever. When I was in college, it was smoking a bowl. If I did something really good, I would go out in the woods and I would go for a walk and I'd smoke a bowl. And that was, like, my reward. And eventually I sensitized myself where I could reward myself with, like, a sip of water. And it'd be like, yay! But that's not the case for a lot of people. And that took a lot of practice. Because a lot of the dysfunction that people feel is... So some people think that ADD is a lack of dopamine, which it is, but it's not because our brains don't make enough dopamine. We actually have twice as many dopamine receptors as the average individual. So that's where hyperfixation and hyperpassion comes from, because when something gives you dopamine, you get twice as much dopamine as the average individual. That's what keeps you on something, keeps you up for 3 days straight learning about a Lego set or something. Like, that's what that is. But at the same time, we are always at least 50% depleted of dopamine as a normal person. So that's why getting up hurts. That's why you hear the microwave go off and you just let it sit there and get cold, and you do that 3 times because you keep forgetting about it. That's what that is. And when you can use neuroplasticity promoting mushrooms like lion's mane and psilocybin to create these new dopamine pathways, then you begin creating more dopamine, because that's also really deeply tied into your gut. Most of your dopamine, talked about that brain imbalance of dopamine being made, dopamine being eaten, too much being eaten. You can train your gut on a microbial level to increase your dopamine production, increase your serotonin production, because a lot of it is created right here. It's created in your small intestine, in your stomach, more than your brain. And so that's another reason that people are having so many attention issues and so many mental health issues, is because of nutrient deficiencies and prebiotic deficiencies and bacterial deficiencies in our guts.
And toxic ingredients in the food, creating like leaky gut, permeable membranes inside the guts. It's a huge problem, and people don't realize the connection that it has to the brain. Like you're finally starting to see it and stuff. But it's like when I've healed myself and I've done, food is like one thing that I'm always working on, and it's when I used to be 280 pounds. I was a big boy, and I've learned how to love the way that I feel good in my body and what I should be at, but I still eat shit, and like even I loved eating the stuff that we had before, and even though it was beautiful with mushrooms, it's like that should be
80-20.
80-20, exactly right. And so I've been at places where I've been really healthy, and my mental function, my ability to just do whatever I want to do, my happiness,
right?
it's amazing. It's amazing. It's like I just always want to live there. But
you can't compare yourself to those perfect moments, though, like those perfect periods of time. You can't compare your present to like trying to be like the past because you got to stick in the present moment. Like,
right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Right. But it's nice to know that I can feel that good, that it's possible, because I know in the future I'm going to have those times again, and I will feel that good, and I will feel, and it pushes me towards it. It makes me strive for it. And it also allows me, I used to be a guy who would get really mad. You fucking idiot. You fucking woke up last night at 2 a.m. and you had fucking cookies. You ate half the row of cookies, dude. Like, come on. You feel like shit today, and it ruined your day. But now I'm just like, you know what? This feels like shit. Let's internalize that feeling, Steve. Let's internalize the feeling that it feels like shit. And then when you go to eat the cookies again, just remember this feeling. And remember, would we rather have this feeling or the feeling that we get after not doing this and going to yoga in the morning? That second feeling is better. So let's go towards that one.
I completely agree with you. It's like the gentle correcting is what I call it in our in
we gotta love ourselves, man. We're so hard on ourselves.
Yeah, let me do that too.
Yeah,
like,
give ourselves a nice hug.
I understand why you want to do that or why you did that, but I'm reminding you that there's a better path. Like, that's what you have to say to yourself. And for people that have that experience where you get really angry, you get really upset with yourself, it's gonna suck. But as you're doing that, imagine that you're screaming at 5-year-old you. And see how that feels. Because you scream at yourself in your head all the time. Like, for little things. You leave the door open and you're like, oh, you fucking idiot. Like, whatever. Right. It's like, imagine telling your son that.
Yeah, that's what it went right to my head. Right when you said that, I said, oh, man. Imagine me telling that to him, or even worse, him thinking that about himself. Because he doesn't. He thinks he's he thinks he's the best, and he is the best, and that we're all the best. And so I that's the one thing, man. Having kids is really, what a gift. Because it teaches you so much, or just being around kids, it's such a gift. It's such a gift to see, that these people are uninhibited, even in their bodies, the way that they can move, the way he can squat, the way he can go through life, and just that is completely mirrored to the way that he thinks and the way that he is, and it is amazing. And I would never be mean to him, and I would so you're right. We just need to always remember that.
Those thoughts are introduced to you somewhere. Like, you're not born hating yourself.
No.
There might be someone who is. But
no, your mom called herself fat, and then eventually maybe called you fat, or because you were calling yourself fat, and now you guys are calling each other fat. Like that. That's like that's.
And now
what
you have binge eating disorder, and you're actually overweight because you didn't process that.
That's right.
It's this like nasty perpetuating cycle that, guys, we can break out of. And it's just one little bit at a time, and then, like, breaking out of it and healing and getting better, like, it's a long freaking journey. And sometimes you stop or you change one thing and you feel better immediately after. Like, if you're an alcoholic and you stop drinking once you get through that withdrawal period, like, you immediately feel better. But then when it comes to, like, psychophysical healing, somatic healing is very different, and mental healing are very different than that. I have this analogy of like a glass of wine that you put directly under a faucet, and it's full. It's a full glass of wine, and you start putting water into it, and you want the glass to be clear. Even though all of that water is going in and tons of fluid is coming out, it remains a dark color for a really long time. And then it gets just slightly lighter, and then just slightly lighter. And it takes a while to completely clear that glass out like that, because you're full of the poison, you're full of the wine, and you start dropping the positive affirmations and the psilocybin and going outside and sleeping well and eating whole foods. You drop that in, getting sunlight, drinking water, like
having friends, being connected,
hugging people, flossing, like all of these things. Even you can have this massive influx of positivity. But it takes a while for all of that poison to come out of the cup, to come out of the body. And it feels like nothing is happening. And then eventually you'll have that moment where you're like, oh my God, something is happening. Like, you wake up and you feel okay. Or like you get some movement back in like a body part or something. And then it stagnates again. And you have to like remain in belief and remain excited that it's going to get better, because it's going to be that like slightly lighter dark color for another long while before it completely flushes out and it's clear. And then like
I really love this analogy. You got to keep the faucet on.
Yep. And that clearing, when the cup is completely clear, is usually when you're like old and gray.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it's a lifelong journey. I love this because I am the example of this.
yeah.
Like, I'm the example of this. I was a person who just didn't know how to take care of himself because my parents didn't know how to do that and weren't able to give me the tools to do that necessarily, or did the best that they could, right? And I poisoned myself. I poisoned myself big time. All of it, all of it, all of it, all of it. And so I like through mental exhaustion and through physical exhaustion, through drugs and alcohol and all that, I beat my body to hell. And I've been on this journey for like the last 10 years, 8 to 10 years, 10 years, where I've just been healing a little bit and putting more. And I said, that's what she's saying is like, I've been doing this shit for 10 years and my cup is like, it's lighter. You can almost see through it. It's not opaque anymore, but you can't quite make it through, but it's still murky in there. Mm-hmm. But like, that's what I love. I love that I have that perspective and the mushrooms are a huge part of that. They just do keep going, and if I get stagnant, they can jump in and say, hey dude, let's revisit this a little bit. Let's get after this a little bit. Let's start thinking this way. And it's there. That's actually like a really interesting thing that I want to bring up. And I have, I have people who I connect with this stuff on all the time, and they tell me, they're big into the lore and the understanding of mushrooms and our relationship with them. And you said earlier that, mushrooms are more like humans and animals.
650 million years closer to humans than to plants.
Right. Yeah. 650 million years closer. And so like, he thinks that the mushrooms are here, protecting us. Mm-hmm. They protect us. And he says there's actually studies that if you take, there's been groups of people who, have moved, and the mycelium, it follows you. The mycelium follows the human being, so that they have this, and I got to talk to him. I got to connect with him more so I can tell this story very fluently. But they studied this somehow where they had people who moved, and the mycelium followed these fucking people. So that, we're trying to get away and be like, hey, let us experience the world. And, and the mushrooms are like, okay, let us protect you. We're coming along. We're going to protect you.
And it's incredible because humans have done very little to make the original home of mushrooms better. We have mostly made it worse and been upset at mushrooms in modern day. Mushrooms were very, enigmatic and scary to a lot of people in early Europe, because you don't understand them.
Some of them killed. Some of them were poisonous.
Yeah,
maybe
some of
too.
them. You know, not a lot in this grand scheme of things, but the fact that humans have been so disruptive and permissive to fungi and to their natural and to all the work that fungi have done. It's gonna get a little deep. Mushrooms, you're completely right. They have followed us and they protect us. They created this planet. Fungi created this planet. Yes, of course, it's made of rocks and it was here in space and it formed as a planet does. But it was rocks and water for a long, long time until animals were able to kind of, multicelled animals and things were able to kind of make it onto land. And then at some point, which they don't really understand how this happened, but at some point, algae and bacteria came together and eventually created lichen, which are technically fungi. It's like algae, bacteria, and fungi, all together. And algae is a protist, I think. But it's this multi-kingdom organism, which is a funny thing to say. And lichen, they digest stone, and they digest minerals, and they digest rock. And what they did was, as these cells were coming onto land, and as plant cells and algae cells wanted to come onto land, they went through and the lichen digested the top layer of the earth and created our soil. It would have just all been rocks if it weren't for fungi and lichen, because they actually ate the rocks and created soil for these algal cells to then put themselves in and have nutrients and have water not surrounding them all the time.
But what was the order? I thought it was plants and fungi, animals.
So these are, what do you mean?
Remember how you said earlier 650 million years closer?
So they're not, I'm not saying that they're the same thing. I'm saying that bacteria came first, and then plants and animals split off from each other, and then up off of animals, fungi came.
Okay.
from
Okay.
there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But what happened, this is long after the creation of all of those kingdoms. This is like, we're looking at multicellular organisms now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm following now.
So once these plants, these aquatic plants, wanted to come onto land, once there was enough soil for them to come onto land, how are they going to absorb water? They've just been floating in water, getting it in through their cells. How are they going to do this in this mostly dry soil now? For like a dozen million years, fungi acted as their roots and gave them water and gave them sugar and gave them nutrients, and the plants gave them other things in exchange. And so that's why we see these mycorrhizal root layers where the mushrooms never really separated themselves from the plants as the plants learned how to grow roots, because they had to spend millions of years developing roots and developing this photosynthetic ability, which algae is able to do. That's where lichen got it from. That's where plants got it from. And so we wouldn't have dirt, we wouldn't have plants, and we wouldn't have an atmosphere if it wasn't for fungi, because the presence of oxygen and nitrogen and all these other things that are created by plant growth and created by combinations of plants and bacteria and fungi, that's what makes up everything around us. We genuinely wouldn't have a humanly habitable planet if it weren't for fungi. And then along the way, people ate mushrooms for food, like they observed animals doing. They ate mushrooms for religious and psychedelic purposes, which we see cave paintings going back 40,000 years, showing people worshipping giant mushroom figures. 45,000 years ago, 40,000 years ago, like old images of people working with them. And then I mentioned the Iceman. I forget his name. It starts with an O. He was found with a bunch of medicinal mushrooms in his little pouch, and this was a body that's thousands of years old, preserved in ice. And he has both edible, medicinal, and I don't think there were psychedelic mushrooms in there, but he has things that were known food sources, and he has things that are used medicinally. And so we've been working with them for so long on this grand human scale that hopefully everything I just said would convince someone that mushrooms are here to help us and mushrooms are here to work with us, or fungi is here to do these things. But if that didn't convince them, did you find something?
Yeah, well, because when you said the O, Otzi.
Yeah.
So I wanted to. That's why I wanted to look it up, because I saw that I remember him. When they found him, it was like such a big deal. But I didn't realize that he absolutely found. He was absolutely found with bracket fungus and all these other stuff like exactly what you're saying. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. Birch polypore.
So the birch polypore, that can be used as a tea to help with constipation. It's also antimicrobial, but more than that, when you get a good young one, a good fresh one, what you can do is peel the top layer off of it. I don't remember the name of it. That top kind of film of tissue. And it has a sort of natural adhesive on it, and it also has antifungal, antiviral, and antimicrobial, antibacterial enzymes that you can take that top layer of the polypore and stick it on a wound. And it's basically like putting Neosporin in a Band-Aid on a cut, because it's an antibiotic and an adhesive.
Yeah, an antibacterial right
so
there.
So he was probably carrying that around in case he got injured.
Right,
or in case he got an infection, and he could heal himself with it.
Yep.
How did he know that? They didn't even know bacteria was a thing, yet they were able to figure this out.
Because the mushrooms taught him. Yeah, right. The mushrooms taught him.
Has anybody ever told the Santa Claus story here?
No. Tell us the Santa Claus story.
Okay.
I mean, people have mentioned it to me that it's connected somehow to mushrooms, but I'd actually never have delved into it. I've been waiting for this.
I'll keep it general. In northernmost tribes, in the area that Santa Claus supposedly originated from, St. Nicholas supposedly originated from, when the dwellings would get completely snowed in by the weather, because they would have to stay in their homes for months at a time, and it would drive people nuts to be in there. It's probably smaller than this, and there's 6 or 8 people in there. It's just a fire and some meat, and that's your winter. The tribe medicine man would come around and he would be, which is very funny, dressed in a suit that was dyed with local plants and fruit to be like a reddish purpley hue, and it would be lined in white reindeer fur. And he would come by, and in the months before, he would have prepared dried Amanita muscaria mushroom, which we talked about earlier, has muscimol in it. And he would come by, and he would literally drop it through the smoke hole, or sometimes climb in through the smoke hole and put it by people's fireplaces to remain dry. They would hang it in socks by the fireplace so that it would remain dry all winter. And so you had to like dry and process and dry and process and dry and process the mushroom multiple times for it to not make you sick when you have it. Or what you can do is feed it to some reindeer. They trip balls for a few hours. They pee, and the muscimol is purified in their urine, and you can drink it without getting sick.
Whoa.
And so the gift of Christmas, the miracle of Christmas for these people for so long, it wasn't called Christmas, but it would be usually the winter solstice when the medicine man would bring by your winterly supply.
Your reindeer piss.
I think he drank the reindeer piss and he gave everybody else mushrooms, but I don't know.
Okay.
Archaeology is complicated.
Yeah, right.
But
okay.
They would have this dissociative medicine that would get them through the winter, get them through the cold.
That's so fascinating. And so like how long like they didn't have a way to get out of their house? Like they were just in their house? What about how was he outside?
I don't know.
No, I know it seems there's definitely, like I said, there's definitely some giddy up to it.
My brain's coming up with all of these possible solutions. I don't know. He could live in like a different style of house, or it could be like there's an upper village and a lower village, or I don't know. But these areas would get like 8 to 10 feet of snow per year, and so a lot of times they would be snowed in.
I bet is what it was. Is they would be snowed in for like a little while, right? Like 2 to 3 weeks, and then get out, and then come back in, and get out, and come back in, and they always had this, and this guy would deliver it, and he probably delivered it in this way, and he was probably a fucking wild man who said, "Yeah, the snow's here, baby. I'm going to give my people the medicine."
That's his job.
It's his job.
The tribe medicine man.
Exactly right. They figured out the crazy fuck who was willing to do that, and that's a beautiful. You do need to be a little bit wild and not crazy, but just a little bit out there and have a different thought pattern than other people.
Yeah.
We all know how important strength training is for long-term health, but it can be hard to know where to start. I was in the same spot a year ago. You want to make sure you're doing exercises right, avoiding injury, and getting results, but it's easy to feel lost without a plan. That's when I found On Target Fitness. At On Target, you get a custom strength program, personalized attention in a small group setting, and the nutrition coaching you need for real lasting change. And the year I've been working out there, I've gotten stronger, more mobile, and more confident. My form has improved, and even something as simple as walking feels better. The group energy keeps me motivated, and every workout is fun. On Target just opened a new location in Kingston. Now you've got even more options to experience their amazing approach. If you're ready for lasting change, head to www.ontargetfit.com and schedule your session today.
There's another really interesting book, or I didn't bring up a book. There's a really interesting book that talks about, I don't know where this connection came from, but it's called Alchemically Stoned. And it's about how psychedelic compounds could be the root to most major religions. Because when we think about like the Dionysian mysteries or the burning bush and the Bible could have been a burning acacia bush. Oh, you're standing in front of a giant cloud of DMT. Of course you're going to see God and tell everybody about it. It's like all of this stuff has had such profound impacts on our psyches for so long that it's impossible to say that it's dangerous or it's poisonous. I mean, I get the rebuttal all the time where I'm like, this is something that we've been around for forever and interacting with forever, and it's natural and it's good for you. And somebody would be like, well, arsenic is natural. And I'm like, arsenic's not good for you, though. But, like, people don't consume something for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years if it damages you so terribly. Of course, people drink alcohol, but for the longest time, that was the only way they could consume any fluid because water damaged you. But there would not be such a profound relationship all over the world. There is only one language, one indigenous people that we've had ample communication enough with to confirm this. One, and it's the Maori people of New Zealand. One group of people don't have a word for psilocybin or for psilocybe mushrooms specifically.
They're the only ones who don't.
They're the only ones that don't have a word for it.
It's so deep into our culture and deep into like who we are as people. Like I just know it from my own experience and from experience I've talked with people, the connectedness that comes along with it. Like it's not unsafe. It's not unsafe, and I hate that people say that. That was obviously a thing that was created, right? Like this is just like cannabis. It was vilified, because of the pharmaceutical markets. They said they need their randomized controlled trials. They need people to take medicine. They need them to take medicine their way. That's why I freed myself from pharmacy, was because that's not the way. The way is personalized medicine, decentralized medicine, where you can, have. You don't have to be beholden to a system where you maybe you're going to get the insurance coverage to get this drug paid for. They'll pay for this one. They're going to pay for this one for the rest of your life. And it's like, then I'm on this drug lifelong, and I'm not actually trying to look at the root cause of why I'm taking this drug. And so there's so many problems with it. And I feel like that. If we can like continue, I mean, we're already going down this path, so it's like so exciting to be a part of it. So, and I didn't think it was going to happen this quickly either. Like that people can openly talk about mushrooms and that it's decriminalized in a ton of jurisdictions, and that I've been to 3 main fungi fests. I've been to all 3 of them, and each year we're growing and talking about it more, and it's so fascinating. It's awesome to be a part of it, and I don't think that we'll ever have to like be worried. You don't have to be worried about. What we need to be worried about is it being co-opted into a different system, and then people only using it in a certain way and not using it individualized and not have that's really what it is. And I go back and forth on it. Like I think that it's good that some of the stuff that they're doing, even though it costs $2,500 for a gram of mushrooms, at some of these places in Oregon. That's wild.
When started.
Exactly. So let's just create a system where like people like you and people like me who and people like Elevate and Level, that are providing people with safe medicine and also the ability the resources to get guidance if you need that is available. Mm-hmm. Like that's the way through. It's a community-based thing, and it has to be a community-based thing, and that's what decentralized medicine is different people in different pockets of the world providing this medicine for their community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Decentralizing everything would be, because there's a certain limit to which people, the size of a civilization that can be managed by people. There is a certain limit before, community breaks apart. And people kind of break apart from each other in animosity and like militias and like crazy shit. There's only a certain amount of people that can be together under one thing, when governing whatever, before it gets really dicey, before there's too much power with one person or one group of people and not enough with the other. Eventually there's a tipping point where hopefully we can all become like one thing. But as of right now, to get people looking at life on a smaller scale, looking at life within their home communities, within their local communities, their state communities, and seeing how you can help individuals around you and what help can be provided to you, that is going to do more for the socioeconomic health of our country than anything. And I think that can be greatly supported by exploration of psilocybin, which I agree with you. Not every person on this planet should consume a macrodose of psilocybin. I think anybody on this planet who's not allergic to mushrooms could consume a microdose and benefit from it, because it's not a psychedelic experience. You don't have a dissociative break, you don't have a psychotic break or like a crack, or like you don't onset schizophrenia from a microdose. It's not that kind of experience. And I would love to see the level of compassion that like came from, like, imagine, and the government has done this where they have, not with psilocybin, but I think it was with LSD, where they intentionally gave an entire community of people LSD in their water for like a few months just to see how they reacted. Have you ever heard about this?
No, I love it.
What's it called? Oh my God.
Yeah, look it up.
This was a thing that happened.
Because imagine the LSD, imagine like, that's a great example, but I think about this all the time. Imagine if you got like the biggest leaders, you got Congress members, and you dose them and then you put them in a room together and we're like, hey, like try to have your same disagreements that you usually have. They wouldn't be able to, and they'd come to some conclusion like, oh shit, like, sorry, man, I love you. Like, yeah, I love you. Let's try to figure this out. There's got to be a better way.
I have a contact, actually, a former colleague whose whole shtick is corporate psychedelic exploration. Goes into big corporations, and sometimes it's like, help the team work better together. And sometimes it's like, we're going to show you that you can do this in a different and like more ethical and humane or whatever way. Okay. So it was a French town. They didn't do it in the United States, but there are a lot of connections to the CIA, where this entire French town was everybody suddenly started hallucinating. Like, it was mob mentality, mass hysteria, hallucinations. People died. People got really, really ill. And it was blamed on bread contamination, because sometimes wheat can become psychedelic. That's a potential cause of the Salem witch trials, actually, was LSD. But a lot of the symptoms, there have been a bunch of like professors and doctors that looked at organic poisoning, and these people were having the wrong symptoms, but they were having the symptoms of LSD at the same time. And what was it? The view remained largely unchallenged until 2009, when an American investigative journalist revealed a CIA document labeled R.E. Point St. Esprit, which is the town, and F. Olson files. Hand carried to Beilin, tell him to see that these are buried, is what the document said. And F. Olson was a CIA scientist who, at the time of this incident, was leading the CIA research on LSD when it first hit, like when it was put out. And then Beilin was the executive director of the Rockefeller Commission, which was a White House organization that investigates drug abuses carried out all over the world. So I don't know what they were talking about.
Killing each other and stuff and going crazy, so it wasn't good. It wasn't a good thing.
No. This was about 60 years ago. I don't think they were killing each other. People died. I don't know if they killed themselves or if they killed each other. But it was a mass hysteria then in this town, where it was just uncontrolled dosing of something.
What a wild idea.
This is something I deep dive into on Shut Your Mouth. It's all of these crazy.
You're going to have to come back for an episode of Shut Your Mouth. Yeah, girl, get it up.
But you're so right. I want to, like, I can't say this on a podcast. Let's somebody should dose Congress and just like see how it goes.
Just see how it goes.
For like a day.
Just for a day. Yeah, just see what's gonna happen. Like I would if I was this, maybe that's maybe not me. I'm on a different path.
Yeah.
But we're gonna find a Senate aide who's willing to do this and fucking just get some people together, in the committee, and just a little micro here, a little micro, see what happens. They'd be so.
Let's just see what happens.
They'd go to be their normal self, where they're like, they're hidden and they're all boxed up and they're trying to, just talking about an agenda, and they'd be like, oh shit, like maybe I should just be like honest today.
Yeah.
Maybe I should give people love and do what I'm supposed to here and serve my constituents.
Maybe I should take some time to read the bill that I'm voting on.
Yeah.
I have no clue what I'm voting on.
I have no clue.
There was a survey where they don't give them enough time to read the bills before they vote, but most senators don't actually read that. Like they admit that they don't, which is crazy.
The AI will be good. That's why you put these big giant filibuster bills in AI and give me a 4-page document about what's bad, and what's good, and let me be able to actually filter this out and read this, and it's crazy. They do it on purpose. Exactly, they do it on purpose. Hopefully, AI can help that.
And they criminalize all these things, and then they do them all themselves, and just get mad at other people. There's a certain person who almost became president that people love, and I'm like, you realize how many thousands of young minorities that were put in prison because of cannabis laws that were passed by that person? You know that? What about all the child sex trafficking that was covered up by?
Yeah,
but it's like,
right. Can we say it? Can we say who it is? Can I say who it is?
Yeah.
Can I say it's Kamala Harris?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
jeepers, right? Like, that's the whole thing. Why with the cognitive disassociation that people have is
Echo chambers that people are in. And that's why there was a full circle point to this conversation. That's why psilocybin's criminalized, is because of the social questioning and the disruptive nature of it. Because psilocybin, when did it gain most of its traction initially?
in the 70s?
60s, really.
60s, right? Yeah.
It was a Schedule 1 substance, 1970.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
all through the
exactly.
60s.
It was the 60s, and then they put it on a Schedule 1.
And we had a massive hippie movement, and we literally protested a war to end, and the government was like, fuck no.
Yeah,
And they
right.
put it on the same level as heroin. It's worse than heroin, I think. I think heroin's a Schedule 2 or something crazy.
Yeah.
It is worse than heroin to the
It
government.
is worse than heroin, yeah.
You know, because it makes people question them.
Worse than cocaine. Cocaine's a Schedule 2. You can use cocaine and eye drops. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's criminalized, is because
It frees the mind. People can ask questions, social questioning.
not only does it make people more compassionate towards each other, but what it does is it forces them to sit and just be like, what the fuck is going on around me right now? Like, I was sitting with my friend the first time she took mushrooms. I did this a lot in college. People that I didn't know would text me and be like, I'm going to take mushrooms for the first time. What should I do? And so I was sitting with this woman, and we're just sitting there silently, and at some point she goes, yo, what the fuck is up with customs? And I was like social customs or airport customs? She's like, airport customs. Why are they there? What do they do? Do you know how many things still get through? And she realized for the first time, she's like, TSA agents are not keeping me safe. I am no less likely to be injured in this place because of TSA. Because nowadays, we can't track all of this stuff. Anything that's going on that plane is probably not going through TSA. There's probably not a passenger bringing it on at that point. But she had this moment of, that's weird. You know, this is weird. And people started having that in the 60s when they were taking this. They're like,
yeah, with everything.
Why are we being thrown away to war? And then people would start coming back from Vietnam and talking about what was actually going on in Vietnam. And we started to have the journalists that were bringing up, hey, we're actually losing this war, and there's no reason we should be in this war. And that's when the government realized people are thinking too much. People are too aware. And so they started giving us more poison, and they kept us away from our psilocybin.
So right, yeah, more poison. Yeah, man, more poison. We're definitely gonna do some shows together, man, because you are a thinker. You are an articulate thinker. You are willing to challenge the mainstream media and the mainstream narrative, which I think is really beautiful. I mean that exactly. Like, I just want politicians to do better, and and if not, just get out of our way. Get out of the people's way. Let us do our own thing. We got this. Like, we're going to take care of each other, and if you let us, and if you stop putting us against each other and making us hate each other.
And we're getting really close to a breaking point where something's going to happen. One of these tectonic plates is going to slip, and there's going to be a big quake. And there are two main ways it could go: complete police state, total control, or complete revolution. And hopefully a revitalization of all of this. But it's going to be absolutely insane. And connection to fungi, and connection to inner peace, and connection to the idea that Earth will continue, life will continue, everything is okay, is what's going to get people through. And it's not a coincidence that at this point in time, when everything is so unstable and everything is changing, mushrooms are being brought to the forefront, and people are having intense religious experiences, and people are finally starting to realize that we're being poisoned, just genuinely poisoned. And it's not a coincidence that it's all happening right now, because there's going to be an intense and specific need for psychospiritual healing after this, for the human race to continue. And if the human race is going to continue, somebody needs to psycho-spiritually heal the people that are in charge of the human race, because they're doing a bad job right now. They're doing a bad job. And from sort of a hippy-dippy, not so scientific standpoint, the mushrooms are panicking. because they are our protectors, but we are like, it's like when your kid gets a car and you're like, you have too much power, I can't control it all anymore. They're freaking out.
Why they're presenting themselves so much to us right now, and why they're trying to, hey, we're here to help you guys, let's go, let's help you. That's why they're speaking to people like you and speaking to all these people who have come into my life and speaking to me. Wow.
Yeah, from a major shut your mouth perspective, we don't want to know what comes after the mushrooms give up. We don't want to know.
It all goes away. It all goes away, right? Exactly. It all goes away, and it goes away very, very quickly.
Yep, we will be hit with a fever. Not like a physical sickness. I mean, maybe. But we will be hit by a fever. It'll come from the earth, or it'll come from space, or it'll come from our food or something. We will be hit with a fever that wipes out the pathogens. And we're the pathogens unless we figure out a way, just like, okay, so like life forms combine and like they become new things like that, like the lichen do. And we just watched a large cell engulf a small cell and actually become an organelle for the first time. And this is like a massive change in life, like life as we know it. But things merge all the time. And what we need to do is figure out a way for us to merge with Earth and for us to merge with each other as a race and be one breathing organism, or it's going to get really bad. Like really bad, really fast. And we're not.
We need to tap into it.
Yes.
It exists already.
It exists.
Me and you are God.
Yes. Oh, yes. You opened it. You opened the crack in my brain. People have been getting it wrong by looking for God and looking for power and looking for healing and salvation by looking up. We've gotten it so fucking wrong. We have to look out. It's all just looking out. There's an amazing book. It's called The Spell of the Sensuous. I don't remember the author. I think his name is David. And it's all about reading the language of shamanism and nature around you. And the reality, you and I are God. This fucking chair is God because it's created by dinosaur, like, oil and shit that's just been here forever. Like, everything around us is God.
All creation.
All of it is.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're all connected.
People are looking for a man in the sky, or like
right.
a flying spaghetti monster in the ocean, which does actually exist. It's a type of squid, but it's all within us and it's all around us. And then there's like a really fine line between being able to say like I am God and not sounding like a psychopath when you're like, no, you literally create your own reality. What you think, what you say is going to happen, what you think is going to happen, what you say is going to happen, will happen. All of it's just a mirror. All of it's just a mirror. Mm-hmm. And that's why I stress to people that want to microdose the intention. Like, you need to be focusing on your intention and repeating your intention and like sitting with it and thinking it and not envisioning it as I will lose weight or I will be happy or I want to be happy. You have to envision it as though it's already happening, or else it's never going to. If you're constantly...
I am happy. I am wealthy. I am of knowledge.
And then on the flip side, I am feeling sad. I am feeling anxious. I made a stupid decision, not I am sad or I am anxious. Or I am tired.
Yeah,
or
you are not your feelings.
No. So it's when you want something to happen. I am eating pizza right now. I'll probably receive free pizza at some point over the next few days because I just said that. Like, I literally, before I talked to you, I had said I am doing a podcast before the end of the year. And then Haley reached out because it's a goal that we had all year. You know, we did a bunch of seminars. We did a bunch of talks. That's what I wanted to do. I'm like, I want to do a couple mushroom walks and I want to do seminars this year. And I've done that. I wanted to do a podcast. And I said it out loud for the first time in a while, just recently. And then Haley's like, hey, we should come up with a date for this and we could do a podcast. And it happened another time where I started, but right before I started working with Level, I started singing a new morning affirmation because that's something that I do every morning. Is I have this playlist of affirmations and I sing it.
Will you share it with me?
Yes. But I started singing one towards the end of my work with New Hampshire Mushroom Company, right before I met them. And one of the lines is genuinely, I level up, I do it just for fun. And then it just dropped in my lap, level. And it was the most serendipitous thing, too. It was my last day working there, and I was supposed to have an hour and a half sitting down with Eric. We had to close up some ties on a project before I left. And he, I don't know if he forgot about it or if it was last minute, but it was like, I have to go to Portland today. I can't do this. I have to go talk to somebody. And so I said, okay, well, I'm driving you then. I'm coming with you. And it created this ripple that the intern was going with him and not someone else. And I'm like, no, it's just, I don't care what you say. I'm getting in this van. You don't.
Yeah.
And I did. And I was like, I will. He's like, you're not going to be allowed in this meeting. This is just not going to happen. I'm like, that's fine. I'll go sit in the parking lot. I'll sit in the van. It's okay. No, I ended up getting invited into the meeting. And now I'm sitting here. Wow. About a year later. Year and a half. No, not a year and a half. 13 months later.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you put
Because
because you said it and you put it into intention. Now, why did you want to go so bad? How did you know you wanted to go on the meeting so bad? I mean, the ride.
I didn't. Oh, the ride
was to do the meeting, to do the hour meeting.
It was just to talk to him because we were writing a grant for
right. You needed things to close up on. It's my last day. Hey, you're giving me this time.
We never even talked about it. We never even talked. We did a little bit, but not really. But just it's like
God,
my partner describes it as you can feel waves. You can walk into a place and it's just stagnant. It's like, oh, why am I here? And then you walk into a place and it's like you feel the boom, boom, boom of the energy around you. We're like, oh, checkpoint, jumping point. We call them jumping points when
points.
Something big happens. We just had a universal jumping point with the assassination of that healthcare guy.
Yeah. Well, what?
Well, there are two theories. Either it was an angry person because of how shitty
coverage.
They are.
Yep.
Or did you hear that there was a shareholders meeting going on?
Yeah, there is. That's why they were there. There was a shareholders meeting, yep.
They stepped over his body.
They did and went into the meeting. It did happen, yeah.
And what happened by the end of the meeting?
The share price went up.
They had a new CEO by the end of the meeting.
So they just wanted to get a new...
They just went, ugh, walked in and appointed a new guy. So, one, either people are getting so genuinely angry we're about to go French Revolution.
Yep.
Which...
Cut their fucking heads off.
Yeah, for the record, I will not be cutting heads off, but I will be cheering other people who do. So we're either going to go full French Revolution because we're getting pissed.
Yeah.
Or with the incredible transfer of communication and transfer of information that we have, it's going to make people pissed. Because now people are going to see... the people that are controlling our healthcare, the people that are controlling our access to healthcare, stepped over someone's body and focused on the money. There is a bloody body. And they said, oh, well, who's going to replace him? Anytime somebody is like, I can't call out of work sick to go to this concert or whatever, I'm like, you are so disposable. You work for TJ Maxx. Skip your shift. You are not, they don't care about you. You are an incredible living being who is supposed to be touching trees and hugging each other and, making popcorn garland. But instead, we're in fluorescent lights and drinking motor oil and, oh, God, it's insane. I used to think people were crazy when they were like, oh, I don't want food dyes. If I consume Red 40, I cannot communicate like a human being for a day. My social skills just leave. I'll be on a trip for my other job, and I will call my partner, and and they'll say, "You had food dye, didn't you?" They can always recognize whatever substance is affecting me. They'll be like, "Oh, you smoked," or but sometimes it'll be, you had why are you talking like that?
Skittles.
You had food dye.
Fucker.
I'm like, I found a bunch of freeze pops in the freezer, and I had a pink one, an orange one, and a red one, and it affects me genuinely.
Yeah, girl.
And you don't realize that when you're so deep into it, and then you come out and you look at the people around you, and it's like you have to access compassion and you have to keep your head on, because it's going to get it's going to get scary. There's going to be intimidation. There already is. I mean, Project 25 is a massive piece of intimidation to just scare people. That's very little of that is going to happen.
Right.
But to scare people, to intimidate people, that was voter intimidation. There were probably a lot of really scared people, queer or neurodivergent people, or people of different religions, that felt the need. I know I had this conversation. It's like, if that happens, they're going to go into voter history. They're going to see what you're registered as. They're going to target people that way. And so, like, the programmed fear is so high above us that as individuals, we're not going to be able to block it all out or stop it. We have to control the way that we react. And that's a big, like, reason that mushrooms are around right now, is
controlling the way we react.
It's the only thing we can control.
Yeah, 100%. It's the only thing you control ever is the way you react to situations.
That's it.
I think it's fascinating that you have this opinion, and so when you say that about the Project 2025, you meant that it's like it was being used as a scare tactic, like by the Democrats to scare people.
Oh no, I think it was that because it's the Republican project.
The Republican project.
They were scaring people that were going to vote Democrat into voting Republican, because of course people recognize that 900 pages of bullshit is not going to go down. But if a little bit of it goes down, take for example.
But it was put on by the Republicans, was Project 2025. So why would they want to scare?
So if it goes through and it gets enacted, and they want to go after, because they called people who they called leftists or anti-government radicals, or government radicals, that they were going to be put in concentration camps, that there was going to be like really bad things. Like what Trump said. Trump said, "What's stopping me from putting them in camps?" Like, round them all up. He said, we need to focus on the internal threat, which are the people that don't believe in our government and our greatness as a nation, and we need to neutralize them.
Oh, so that was all just scare tactics, you're saying?
What I think the scare tactic was, there were obviously going to be some people that were like, oh my God, this is so bad, we should just vote for the other person. There are going to be a lot more people, or maybe the same amount, that say, because I had this thought, if that goes through, if that happens, how are they going to figure out the people to put in there? Of course, there's like lifestyle and really superficial things that would put people in there, but they could very easily go in and take like every registered Democrat, or like everybody who posts about Joe Jorgensen on their timeline or something. Be like, all of those people go first. All of the people that wanted libertarians or like super other liberal people, like they go first, because it's all public information.
Yeah.
So I think it intimidated a lot of people to cover their asses by appearing like a Republican, so that if something were to go down, they would be camouflaged.
That's wild.
Like so many people.
Because that's wild. I mean, it's not going to happen. You know, that's never ever going to happen. There in the United States, we're never going to. It happened before. It's
happening in Russia right now.
Oh,
where
for sure.
A lot of those people, a lot of the Russian people, don't want what's going on. They're not going to say that.
No, right, of course.
They're not going. They're going to say, "I love Putin,"
right?
Because then they're not going to get killed.
Right.
That's what I think that tactic was. Which I hope nothing from that packet ever gets enacted. But I think it was a move like that, where it's like, if I speak out, because people are getting really comfortable speaking out, which is good.
Great.
You put something out there that says, oh, you publicly dislike the actions of the government? I could neutralize you as a treasonous threat. People aren't going to speak out about their government anymore.
Right, but people are speaking more about the government right now than they ever have.
Which is good, and I hope that's
so it's counterintuitive. It's counter to what they pushed out. Is the counter is actually happening in real life, right?
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
And that's why we, the people, need to be the ones who drive it, not the government, not the people who are making the decisions. Like you said, the people who are hiding behind these things to do these massive psyops to fuck with us and to do it.
To scare
us.
But yeah, it's dangerous on all ends.
It's dangerous on all ends, and I think that you and you'll come back for a Shut Your Mouth episode?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, because I would really love that, because I think that we could explore so much more of this stuff and to greater detail, and And you know, you've been amazing today. And so I think that I want to ask you one last question that will, you know, potentially lead us into a shut your mouth episode at some point.
Oh boy. This
So,
is the last question.
well, no, I mean, we're you know, we're almost
Yeah,
at time, you know. So
yeah.
like, and if you want to talk
End
about more
on a
stuff,
hot note.
and yeah, end on a hot note, and it's a good question, and it can have layers. You've talked a lot today about how, you know, and we've talked a lot about how evolution and plants and fungi and animals have created over time, and how, you know, single cellular organisms have become, you know, multicellular organelles, and how this process has taken place over a long period of time, and how we've learned from the mushrooms. Are there aliens?
In the ocean.
Okay. See, I want to know this because like this is counterintuitive, right? If there's aliens and aliens are like controlling us and have gave us life or like
that's
created
the
us,
mushrooms.
the mushrooms are the aliens.
There's a very strong chance. Like I said, they don't really know how lichen became a thing. And also, lichen can be exposed to the vacuum of space for like a year and continue growing when they're brought back out. They can also be burned to a crisp, and if there's one tiny cell that hasn't burned, or like one group
This is
of
lichen,
those
or
three,
this
lichen, which is a community of fungi, bacteria, and algae. They can be exposed to the vacuum of space and to fire and to extreme solar radiation and be fine.
So the mushrooms are the aliens?
Potentially.
But I just want to know your opinion.
Potentially.
Okay, potentially. So you just think, okay. So
And
your opinion is it might be that. It might be something else.
And like
yeah, okay, because that's why I feel that too, but it's like, why would they, if that's the case, why did they make it? Maybe they had to. Maybe they just, that's how long it takes. And to them, time is different. So it's like 650 million years isn't a long time.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a drop in the bucket. Yeah, because human, we've only been alive on the timeline of like the Earth. We've only been alive for 1% of it, human beings.
Yeah.
We've been alive for like fucking 40, you know, like 400,000 years, you know?
Yeah. So a few different thoughts come out of this. One, circling back to what I said about we've been doing it wrong by looking up. We are some of the youngest things here, like you just said. If there are aliens, if there are extraterrestrials, they're probably already on this planet. To the topic of why did mushrooms wait so long? Something with that much intelligence, something with that cosmic ability to alter planets, that the way that they did and the way that they've continued to. Usually they are simply here to observe. Like they help us, you know, like
follow us
they
around,
give you little nudges.
right? Yeah.
Like I said about the mold. We're running out of little nudges.
Yeah.
They're going to give us the fever soon. But they are usually...
Because they probably just start over. You know, they would just start over.
They will not end.
Yeah, they're not going to end. They just start over. Eventually, it would just, like, revert. They'd go away for a little while, let all of us die, then they'd come back.
They won't even go away. When we become extinct, it just shows up again tomorrow. Earth will still... When the last human dies, Earth will still be here tomorrow. And yeah, we are in a mass extinction event right now, but we've had 5 others. Mm-hmm. Or 4 others. I don't know.
A lot of others.
And so it will just start over. The mushrooms aren't going to go anywhere. But
you said they were going to abandon us earlier, so that's why I was saying that.
Well,
because I thought maybe they abandoned us for a little while, let us die off, and then they come back.
What could happen is, because I don't know what the mushrooms are thinking. They're either protectors that are really trying to push us in the right direction, or they could be protecting Earth. And we are pathogens, like I had said. It's who knows? And it could be, so like there are pathogens that go into our bodies. We have all of these different bacteria that at some point were unfamiliar to us. And at some point our immune systems attacked them. But now they live in our bodies and they help us and they actually fight against other pathogens. I think what fungi is there to do, like they've done for plants, like they probably did for all of the other microorganisms in our body, is to help us fuse with nature, with Earth, so that it doesn't have to do that. But you only get a certain number of chances. So I don't think mushrooms hate us or that they will abandon us, but they have a job to do. And if we're not going to coexist with each other and coexist with Earth in a way that does more good than harm,
peace.
What choice do they have?
They don't have a choice. They don't. It's not feelings. It's not feelings.
Mushrooms know a lot of things. Mushrooms can do a lot of things. Mushrooms have seen a lot of things. Mushrooms can love a lot of things, but they don't have a human set of emotions. Of course, there's this control, and they teach us unconditional love. But you can't just keep kicking the dog and expect it to come back to you.
Maybe that's why they like us. It's because through us, they can experience some of those feelings that they're not able to feel, that they're not able to have that a human set of emotions, that wide-ranging set of emotions. But at some point, if that becomes it becomes not valuable to them anymore, or it's the disease is outweighing the benefit. What we've caught, the human disease outweighs the benefit, and they say, we like these emotions, but we can wait 650 million years to create a new set of you guys, and for that to happen again. So
just like medical care, the treatment needs to decrease the risk of mortality and improve the quality of life. And if only one of those things is present, then it's not a good treatment, unless that you're going to die, and so you're just doing hospice. But Earth isn't doing hospice. So mushrooms are not going to say, "Oh, just keep the cool quality of life for the humans," and die. Mm-hmm. Mushrooms are going to choose the life of humans, or the life of Earth, and the quality of life for everything else on Earth if humans are the ones fucking it up. And I don't think mushrooms are going to come and kill us. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think so.
No, but if they stop working, if they stop doing their job, we die. If they stop doing their job in the kingdom that we live in, we all die.
We die.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have things that are processed. It becomes a toxic environment. Maybe not immediately, but over some time, it definitely becomes bad.
And more than that, we won't have a food system, and we won't have medicine that is made by mold and fungi. One of the most common ingredients in all of our food, citric acid, that's made by mold. Most of the enzymes in clothing and textile production are made by mold. A lot of things that we put into our cars, into technology, are made by mold. A lot of, just so much. All of this is controlled by fungi, or just supported by fungi. I will take back that I said controlled. It's all supported by fungi. It's all kind of managed and advised by fungi. I don't know. I could keep talking, but the last question was about aliens, and now I'm talking about mass extinctions.
Well, so. which I love, and I can't wait to continue these talks with you, because we're going to be doing a mushroom series, and we're going to be doing on Dr. BeeWell as well as Shut Your Mouth, and just having a bunch of fun talking about it and trying to. I'm super passionate about this, obviously, right? And I could talk about it, for hours and hours, and we will do that together. And so it'll be a good introduction to to the Steve and Bella series where we talk about this stuff. And
the wonderful world.
The wonderful world, man. It's seriously there's a lot of health, and I the fact that you vibed with me on decentralized medicine and understand that that's a need for a thing. We have so much more to talk about. We got to talk about the vitamin D, and we have to talk about light. And we have to talk about all this.
Oh my God, light! Do you know how many times I had to be like, "Don't bring up light. Don't bring up light beings. Don't bring up." Just walk.
Today in the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
so
God.
many times I wanted to just be like.
So many times today during this podcast, I had to say to myself, "Don't bring up the light. Don't bring up the light. Don't bring it up because there goes an hour. There goes No,
it's I had to remind myself this is a health podcast, not a spiritualism podcast. So it's hold back the we're all just reflections, and
but hey, let's do one of those.
We aren't even solid,
Oh my God. I can't wait for part 2. I can't wait. I can't wait.
I can't wait to read through declassified CIA documents with you.
Yes. Let's do it. Please, let's plan out a really good episode on it too, and let's start that tomorrow. Tomorrow. We can get some rest tonight, and take some focus, energy, calm, tomorrow, and Lion's Mane, and get back after it.
Well,
awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bella, you seriously, and I'll say it again. You've been incredible. You are incredibly articulate. I am so benefited from getting to spend this afternoon with you and learning from you. I can't wait. I'm so glad that we're connected and that we're friends now, and that I have you as a resource. You have me as a resource. You have Bella as a resource. If you guys need her, reach out. How can the people find you?
Timcomycology.com/home. Which is TIMCO and then mycology. You can also email me at timcomycology@gmail.com. Or you can order through Elevate Mushrooms at shopelevatemushrooms.com. And with a purchase of $100 or more, you get a free consultation with me. And so those are the best ways to get in touch.
Yeah, guys, please, get in touch with my friend Bella because she is awesome, and we are starting to the revolution's been started, and we're going to continue down the path of opening this up for people and letting people know that mushrooms are safe and that they're an incredible part of our existence. And Bella, I can't wait to keep doing it with you. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I just have one thing because you said my favorite sentence. You said mushrooms are safe. And the last thing I want to leave with you to show you how little you know about mushrooms is there is not a singular mushroom in the continental United States that can hurt you by you touching it. Not a single one.
Wow.
You could chew the deadliest mushroom in the United States and then spit it out and be okay. Mushrooms are safe. They're very safe.
I love it. The mycologist, the integrative mycologist who's done the work is letting us know that mushrooms are safe. Guys, they are safe. Put some in your food. Put some in your medicine. Give some to your friends. Seriously, let's get after this. Let's keep this revolution going. Let's let people know that it's a beautifully safe treatment. You got that coming from a mycologist and from a pharmacist. And too, if you need help, reach out always. Dr. BeeWell Show. We're always here. Please like and subscribe. You guys, this is why I get to do this show is because you guys fucking listen to my show, which is incredible. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to the show. Please subscribe to Shut Your Mouth as well, our new program coming out. The first couple episodes have already been released. If you have the time, do a review, on Apple or on Spotify. It's always helpful. And until next time, giddy up.